gardening is much more of a process than just sticking the plants in the ground and digging them up again. Gardening is a process that involves clearing the ground, using the right soil, picking the perfect plants, taking care of them as they grow into vegetables that the gardener will be able to consume or sell for profit later. Most people's gardens look like this first picture: lifeless, dreary, dull, and not editable at all. Whereas if they did their homework and followed the 6 perfect steps to gardening, their garden could look more like this one: healthy, fully vegetated, and very edible. To create a garden like this one, you will have to start in the spring when the ground has thawed, which brings me to where gardening begins. The first step may not seem very important, but it is. According to an article written by Barbara Pleasant, the first step is called siting the site. She says the gardener should pick a place and watch it for the whole day. It sounds odd, right? But actually what she's saying is that she wants you to check it every so often to check the sun pattern on the area at which you want to plant. If the area isn't getting enough sun, the plants aren't going to grow properly at all. 2 other important things that need to be inspected to see how well your garden will grow are how the soil drains. So if the water doesn't drain through, it'll just leave a puddle, and that's not going to work. And also if there is enough topsoil on in the area that you have. Now that the gardener has picked the section he or she wants, they will start taking care of the garden, which brings me to the next step: improving the soil. According to Barbara Pleasant, improving the soil involves adding and subtracting to the soil. The subtracting from the soil is removing any existing vegetation, which could include grass, other plants, or anything that could get in the way. Adding to the soil is adding a layer of compost on top of your topsoil. This makes the soil wake up and get ready for the seeds that will be planted soon. Picking the plants is more exciting than putting the labor into preparing the soil for your plants. This step depends on what the person is trying to accomplish with their garden. The gardener would want to pick vegetables which they will eat later, and not just put some random ones just for fun. When a person is starting a garden, it may be helpful to only buy a few different seeds and not buy 10 different ones, so they don't feel very overwhelmed. Beginner vegetables, according to Better Homes and Gardens, would be lettuce, peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers. Now that the gardener has picked out seeds, the seeds that he or she wants, they must begin the planting process. They must plant the seeds. This step often is overlooked as you just stick the seeds in the ground. You don't have to think about it or how you plant them or anything. The Better Homes and Gardens tells the grower to read the seed packets to know how to properly plant each seed. Things that vary from plant to plant. First is when to plant them. Lettuce needs to be planted in April, but cucumbers don't have to be planted till late May. How deep each seed needs to be planted: lettuce only needs to be about 1/4 of an inch deep into the soil, whereas cucumbers need to be at least 2 inches. How far apart to plant the seeds is another difference. Lettuce needs to be about 1 foot apart, whereas cucumbers need at least 3 feet away from each other. Once they've been planted, a grower needs to begin tending the vegetables. This may be exhausting for some, but the work does pay off in the long run. As stated in Better Homes and Gardens, tending includes two different important things: watering and fertilizing. Make sure your seeds get the right amount of water. You don't want to let them dry out and not water them at all, because obviously they're not going to grow. But you also don't want to over-water them and drown them and just form big puddles. Second is fertilizing. No one wants to pull weeds, so fertilizing can take care of those pesky weeds. A grower needs to be careful, though, of which fertilizer he puts on each of his seeds, because you could kill the plants if you put the wrong fertilizers on them. After a few months of tending the garden, or the 5th step in this process, then begins the 6th and final step: harvesting the garden, or harvesting the vegetables. Harvest is yet another variable factor from plant to plant. For example, carrots need to be harvested 2 months after they are planted, whereas pumpkins can wait 4 months before they would be harvested, according to Vernon Davis Hayes from Creighton University. Once harvest is over, the grower must start the process over again for next year. Gardening is a practice that involves the following 6 steps: siting the soil, improving the soil, picking the seeds, planting the seeds, tending the vegetables, and harvesting the vegetables. And if followed correctly, will result in something worth the work. So if your garden looks like this and produces vegetables like these, the gardener will have successfully followed